Hi everyone, welcome to the Monkey Patching Podcast, where we go bananas about all things AgentKits, hallucinations, and more. My name is Murillo. I'm joined by my friend Bart. Hey Bart.
Hey Murillo.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
A lot of cool things were released. I think OpenAI had their Dev Day, I think they called it.
Something like that, yeah. I'm not sure the exact name.
So we have some interesting stuff to talk about, and we have also some tidbits, some, I don't know how to call it, like chit-chat, babble.
Let's see.
Don't
we always?
Yeah, that's true. Don't we always? But let's get started, shall we? Do you want to start or should I start?
Kick it off. ElevenLabs' agent workflows let you build branching voice flows on a clean drag-and-drop map with human handoffs baked in. You can swap models or voices with the sub-agent nodes and route successful or failure with dispatch tools. It's no-code guardrails, so complex. Jeez. ElevenLabs has released agent workflows that let you build branching voice flows on a clean drag-and-drop map with human handoffs baked in. You could swap models or voices with sub-agent nodes and route successful or failure with dispatch tools. It has no-code guardrails built in, so complex call trees don't fall apart when users talk over each other.
Cool. So ElevenLabs is the company that did a lot of voice cloning and all these things, right? Like the voice agents, let's say.
It's very well known for, let's say, text-to-voice, right? And like train your own voices, voice cloning, etc.
Indeed. So they also released now the agent workflows. So, and we're going to see this a bit more later in the episode, but looks like something like this. So basically like you can have
a bit like a drag and drop canvas,
yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
Like if you are familiar with Zapier or with yes. Nathan and Nathan, like you build your workflow, build in the logic through a visual interface.
Exactly. So you can drag the stuff in. You can actually select the different voices for each thing. You can say, if the intent is this, then go to this other agent that may have the same voice, may not. You can call tools and say, if this tool succeeds, then do this. If the tool does not succeed, then do that. This is, I guess, from like phone numbers, actually. Because one of the things you can also do is to transfer to a person as well. So like to also transfer to a phone number, or you can just hang up the call. So I think it's cool. I mean,
yeah, it's cool, and it's I think it's something that ElevenLabs was already used a lot for, let's say, quote unquote, automated voice calls or automated customer support via voice. But you had to integrate you had to build your own logic around it and integrate it via their API or the toolset that they had available at the time. Now I think what they introduce is basically their own out of the box call center as a service.
Yeah, indeed. Which I think it'll make a lot of stuff much easier, right? To build these POCs and all that.
Exactly. And it also, I think, it will very much upset the startup ecosystem around those virtual call centers, because I think probably a lot of tools have already wrapped ElevenLabs just to do this, right? And now you can do it with ElevenLabs just out of the box.
For sure. And I think they're also not just startups, but also phone providers, right? That integrate the software with phone numbers. Yeah. I know that some of them were also working on things like this to implement AI and all that. But now I feel like from a big name like ElevenLabs with very good, the quality of the AI is good, right? For the voice and all these things to do that. Then I think I guess now as I'm saying this, the main developer task here is integrating ElevenLabs with the phone systems that they have, right? Which I'm sure that they'll keep working on this as well to make it more smooth.
But this makes like the technology that their core technology, this synthetic voice generation, like it brings it much closer to actually getting a direct value out of that, right?
Yeah,
because this is something that you can like tomorrow implement.
For sure. Yeah, I think financially, like as a product, ElevenLabs now makes way more there's way more value, right? Like it's different to say like I have a company that builds voice cloning and to say I have a company that creates these agents that can support businesses to manage customer relations, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Very nice. And actually also this is something like you said, I've seen a few use cases on this. It's not as popular, and I think it's not as popular because it's not as easy to get going with these things. So I'm also curious how they do it, right? For like if you need to version stuff, or how do you, the AI layer with the text layer. What if you have multi-language, right? We live in Belgium. In Belgium, there are 3 official
Exactly. Yeah.
languages as well. So how, or accents as well. So I think there's still a lot of questions to be answered, but I think it's a step in the right direction.
We should test it out
We should test it out. Maybe we can do a
for
focused
our
episode on
support
this.
line and for everybody calling in every time of each episode.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, it's too much, it's unmanageable. Maybe you can do like a whole episode that is just like calling them, and just having a conversation and just see how it all
Yeah.
goes. All right. OpenAI's AgentKit bundles a visual agent builder, embeddable chat kit, and new evals so teams can design, ship, and measure agents faster. Think drag and drop nodes, previews, versioning, plus a connector registry for governance. Less glue code, more oversight. Useful when real users and real data hit your bot.
Very related, right? To what we were
Yes.
just discussing around ElevenLabs agent workflows.
Yes. This came out of OpenAI on their dev day.
Yeah. And this is more or less like a bundle. AgentKit is a bundle. What I tested out is Agent Builder is part of it. It's like this visual canvas that you're showing now. And there's also ChatKit, which is like your embeddable chat UI. And there are specific evals that you can now use. I checked out Agent Builder yesterday.
You did it.
It's very impressive, actually.
Really?
And to me, what really stands out, so this allows you to really like with this drag and drop canvas to really build the logic around your LLMs. And I think the type of workflows that you would build in that, this is what you would have built in the last 2 years in Nathan or Zapier.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be a huge competitor for these type of platforms, I think.
Do you think there is, have you used N8N or Zapier? I know you've used. There's also AutoGPT, I think.
I'm using Nathan as well, yeah.
And how do you compare them?
Well, I think the difficult thing with these platforms is always, because I've also tried Make, for example, Make.com, it's also a similar platform. It always stands or falls with how easy does it integrate all the tools that you want to use. Like you're calling out to this service or you want to store something there. And what OpenAI now did with their agent builder is they have an MCP block, and you can basically connect with an MCP and use whatever tool it has available. So just connect to the Google Drive MCP and like store some data there, right? Like to me, it's also like the first use for MCP where I see like this is a huge change, because before the MCP was there, like integrating thousands of tools would have taken them, 5 years or something.
Yeah.
And now you can just out of the box use everything that has an MCP server exposed.
True.
And like that combination of like being very close to that model, really being able to control like the performance throughout that workflow that OpenAI can do, having these MCP integrations, like it makes the functionality very strong. And they also have things built in, like for example, again, something where there are a lot of startups around, like guardrails. Like there's just a block for guardrails where you can say like trigger when there is PAI data. I want to moderate this. I want to check for jailbreaks. I want to do hallucination verifications versus like this set of documents that I have. Like a lot of it is built in.
Yeah, indeed. It's really speeds up a lot of the things. I'm also wondering, with these developments, I feel like these spaces getting more and more mature. Do you think this is the future of building agent workflows?
That's actually something that I thought about myself as well, right? I don't think it will solve all cases. I think that's maybe the logical answer there. Like, because you're asking, like, will we go from coding to these visual platforms, right? That's a bit what you're hinting towards.
Yeah.
But I do think that the problem what we're basically doing today for a lot of this logic is just writing code that basically defines a workflow, and throughout that workflow does API calls to whatever service that is providing your model. And sometimes there are very complex systems that are difficult to maintain from in a visual interface, but a lot of them are simple workflows that I would argue are easier to maintain in a visual interface, and maybe also don't need coding skills. And actually, how OpenAI now did this with their agent builder is that you can actually have the full expression. You see it also in the image that you're sharing at the top right. You can just copy paste the Python code to do the exact same thing.
Very interesting. Can you do the opposite?
So you can also
as well?
start off like building everything here in this interface and then switch to a more code-based environment because you have the right arguments to do that.
And maybe I guess even versioning and also sharing. I guess that is interesting. That is interesting. Have you looked into that? I'm curious how the code looks like. Does it look kind of like a JSON? Kind of like a...
It's Python code.
It's just Python code. Okay. Cool. This looks like a really good trade-off. I remember reading or listening to someone saying that in their company, the policy is every time someone has an idea, don't pitch the idea, build something and show me. And I think with things like this,
you mean?
I don't know if it was OpenAI, but I remember it was something like if anyone has any idea, marketing,
Okay. Yeah.
business development, they say, I would like to see this. With more of these tools, they don't have to just say, this is how I envision. They can really just build something and just don't pitch me the idea, pitch me the actual...
The prototype.
Exactly. Like really early stage, but still, right?
Yeah, it puts a lot of power in people that are not familiar with coding.
For sure. And I think it's actually a good thing. I know some people don't like it because they say that, it's maybe create like funky or brittle applications, but I think it's actually, I personally think is a good thing, right? Like to empower people. I don't think, like you said, there will always be a space for developers to really build the safeguards. And like if you're going to deploy and have really production grade systems, I think there's more stuff to it. But
yeah, there is this trade-off. I think from the moment that you start building a visual interface and like you have tens of different soft blocks that contain custom code that you put like then it becomes hard to understand what went wrong if something goes wrong, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't have these custom code blocks and stuff, like it's easy to find where something went wrong.
Yeah, indeed. But I think it's cool. Very curious, actually. I would like to try. But I think maybe we can, maybe we could have like an episode on these Canvas drag and drop tools, and then just kind of do a tour of them. That could be interesting. Right. What else?
David Heinemeyer Hansen, one of the guys behind Basecamp, he argues for a simple rule. Do the work that energizes you before email and meetings. He sometimes skips check-ins to code and tinker, treating maker time as non-negotiable. It's a nudge to protect focus so the rest of the days runs on momentum.
So it's a short article. Did you get a chance to read this as well, Bart?
Yeah. Scroll through it. Yeah.
Yes. So I read it. I had some thoughts on this. I also wanted to hear your thoughts on this. So he has a very high position, right? Like also CTO for the 37 Signals. He also did a lot. He's very successful as a programmer as well, created Ruby on Rails and all that. Basically what he says is prioritize also. He also has some like hot takes, right? I think he was the same guy that said that they're buying servers again. They're moving away from cloud because they did some calculations and is actually cheaper in the, I think like 5 years horizon or something.
But that's not really related to this article.
Not related to this article, but just to say like he has some interesting thoughts, right? And some of the stuff I agree, some of the stuff I don't. The point that he makes here is with pay yourself first, is do the things that give you satisfaction, even though that's maybe not the thing that is knocking on your door. So for example, he says, He's responsible for employees, customers, readers, other managers. There's projects, there's emails that he needs to answer. But sometimes he said he just does what he wants, kinda. He programs because he wants to. He experiments. He does research, even though that may be not the most pressing thing. The reason I was also interested in this is because in my current role, I also would like to stay technical. But if you just follow the priority list of the things that people are asking for you, the technical work is probably going to be one of the last ones, but more realistically, something that never gets picked up, right? No one is asking you to code, but it's something that you want to do. It's something that you know that is important for you to do to be able to give advice on the other things, right? To stay up to date on all these things. Like in the previous article, you talked about the OpenAI AgentKit. And I think for you to say what is good, what is not good, you also need to try these things. So it is important for sure, but it's not as urgent. There's not as much people, no one's going to knock on your door and say, hey, have you tried this yet already or not, right?
Mm.
And I struggle a bit with this. I think like finding the balance. I think that's also a bit what gives you energy, right? Maybe there are things that are more, you have a meeting with a potential customer next week. So there's still time to prepare, but should you start preparing now, or should you just kind of like investigate something that is more fun, that gives you more energy? And he touches a bit on this, right? Like do the things that pay yourself first. I think there's also needs to be a bit of a confidence in a way. I don't know if confidence is the right word, but I also think you need to have some assurance on yourself, right? Like, okay, I'll get everything else done, or this is the more important, be able to defend this to other people. And maybe that's also what I struggle with personally. But I also wanted to hear from you, because I also, from the outside in at least, it always looked like you had a good balance of these things. And I'm sure in your previous role, you also had a lot of different things that were competing for your attention, but you said, okay, no, but I want to do this, or no, I think this is important, or everything else would be fine. I'm just going to focus on this.
It's a big question. I'll try to respond to the article.
Okay.
Article I don't agree with at all. Like at all.
Okay.
Like, but it's also maybe how you read it. Like I read this as, let's do the fun stuff first and then do the stuff I need to do. Because the fun stuff I get energy from.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really believe that that is how life works if you have ambitious goals.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have ambitious goals, you want to reach something, there's going to be a shit ton of hard work that is not fun, but that you need to do to get there. And if your view towards the world is, no, I'm just going to do the fun stuff, and then let's see if I have some time left, and then I'm going to work on my goals, I don't think you will get there. I don't think that's real life. I think this is to me, this is an example of someone that has been in a privileged position for a long time and doesn't remember anymore what a shit ton of work it took for him to get there.
Okay, interesting. And I also, when you were saying this as well, my thought was also like, doing the fun stuff is never it never finishes, right? It's never like, I did this, okay, now I scratched that itch, now I'm gonna do the actual important work. I feel like a lot of these things, like, I don't know, if you tell me I have 1 month to prepare a presentation and that's the only thing I'm gonna focus on, I can spend 1 month on this. If you tell me I have 1 week, I'll also do this. And the same thing goes for fun stuff. So I think also, I don't think, if that's how you read it, I also don't agree, because I think even if you said do the fun stuff first, it's like, it's not a checklist that stops, right?
No, and what I do agree with, like you're gonna have a priority list, right? And some of those high priority things need to be fun stuff. Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to do that for a very long time.
For sure.
You also need to find a way to correctly moderate those priorities and say yes to some things and no to other things.
Yeah.
But I think it should start from the priorities and not how much do I like to do this.
No, for sure. I also don't, again, what you said is like, do this first and do this second. I also don't think that's the way you should. I think for me, the way, the reflection for myself was more like, you need to have a balance, right? And it's not always easy to, like, sometimes you need to be conscious about balancing one way rather than the other. Like, normally I need to protect time to do the technical work, and I don't need to protect time to do the sending proposals or the client meetings or all these things, right?
I think when you're in a role where you have responsibilities to comes down to managing a team, basically, I think it's very easy to lose sight of actual priorities, but just to get your work, to let your work shift towards like, there's another fire, let's put out that fire.
Yeah, for me also, it's like,
and those are not always priorities, but they feel as priorities.
To me, but it doesn't even need to be a fire. To me, it can be just like, okay, there's a proposal, whatever, for next month. Maybe I should just get started now because I don't want to be in the grind later on, right? But then there's always going to be something, and the time is always going to take. The time to do the task will always be the whole amount of time that you allocate for it. You know? So I also don't think that's the right way to go. And like you said, there's also things that you want to do because it gives you energy, and you also need to be mindful of that. There is also a bit of a side note, or it's the same spirit, but in a very different context. I was watching a documentary about a tennis player, and then he wanted to take some time off, and then everyone was saying like, no, you shouldn't do it. But he says, but I need this, right? I need this to stay sane as a person, to be able to enjoy playing tennis, to be able to do these things. And I think the way he said it, like, I need it. I also thought it was, I think you need, for you to be able to do these things long term, right? To not burn out, to not do this, to not do that. You also need to be mindful of these things. And I think it should be normal for us to say, hey, I want to do this because I need to recharge my battery. I need to have that balance that and it also brings value, of course. Not to say that just do something purely for fun, but I do think there's a lot of stuff. If you chose a role, there are a lot of stuff that probably gives you energy in that role, right? And also be mindful of that and keeping that in the forefront.
Yeah, there needs to be stuff in those priority things that are fun to do.
For sure. Right? And I think if there's nothing, then maybe you are in the wrong role, right? So, which is also fine, but reflection for yourself. So, okay, cool. Did you ever struggle with this at all, Bart, throughout your career when you were managing a company?
Of course, I think everybody does. Definitely. And I think in my role as a founder, like it also, you have a role that with the growth of the company, every year changes. So I think sometimes that makes it's very hard to understand what a good priority list is. So definitely, I think it's natural that you struggle with it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And up next we have Swiss researchers explore quote-unquote wetware computers built from lab-grown brain organoids as a niche complement to silicon. At Final Spark, organoids mature for months, connect to electrodes, and fire signals for up to 4 months. If they learn simple tasks, living processors could deliver ultra-efficient task-specific systems. Interesting. What is this? Say more, Bart.
I came across this article. I don't know actually where. I think it passed on Reddit somewhere. About these scientists trying to basically build sort of CPUs, like processing units from organic neurons, I want to say, organic cells at least. I'm not sure what type of cells exactly. They start from by harvesting stem cells, and then they grow out these micro brains from them. It triggered me very much because I didn't know that this is something that we were already doing. It's very much sci-fi, Futurama.
Yeah, I was going to say, very sci-fi.
And also the name they give it, wetware. Like it could be something that came from a sci-fi novel. I looked into it a little bit. I think it's a bit thought-provoking. Well, the performance is not really there, right? This is still very, very early stages. They get these cells to, they call it organoids, to basically respond to stimuli. These organoids, they live around 3 to 4 months, which is already quite a long time, right?
Yeah.
But they can already do some stuff like interact with a Pong game. Yeah, it's very interesting. And I was thinking to myself, like, how do you train something like that, right? And apparently they have like this sort of there are multiple ways to do this. I think the article that we're looking at here, they do it through like if so there are inputs to this cluster of neurons, to this organoid, and if the output is correct, then they get a structured stimuli, and if the output is not correct, they get a very noisy stimuli. And apparently, it wires itself through time after enough things to basically respond more positively to these structured stimuli. And that's how they get it to function. But it's still, of course, still very early days. There are also other ways, like they're actually with certain chemical products to use it as a positive feedback response and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what this will look like in, I don't know, 30 years, 20 years.
Yeah, right. I feel
like you will have your wetware laptop, and then during the day you need to stop because you need to you open the valve and then you pour in your protein milkshake.
Yeah, exactly.
To feed it, right?
It's like it's not power, but it's just like, yeah, it's. But even like things like how skin cells are turned into mini brains, I feel like that in itself is already like, what the fuck? And then to convert it to like a computer interface thing, like it's like even the first part, like human cells are turned to stem cells. I didn't even know that was possible, to be honest, because I also heard that like stem cells are super valuable because like if you have damaged cells, like they're the only types of cells that can transform into any tissue, basically any organ. Yeah. But then I was like, we do this? I didn't even.
Apparently we do this.
It's crazy.
It's cool.
Indeed. It's from where are they from actually? Swiss researchers. Okay.
So in 30 years you will not just have your AI assistant, but it will also have an actual organoid brain.
Yeah, it will be just
to run on
assistance.
Yeah.
Just intelligence.
Yeah.
It won't be like the neural networks will be very it's gonna be in a new terminology for all these things. Jesus. All right, maybe more on the AI, especially the artificial part. Right, we have it's your turn actually.
Deloitte Australia admits that an AI tool fabricated citations and quotes in a 440,000 government review. A revised report discloses use of Azure OpenAI GPT-4o and removes a fake judicial quote on page 58. Expect stricter disclosure rules and client asking what exactly was machine made. Interesting, eh? So this is Deloitte was tasked by the Australian government to basically do a welfare system review for Australia.
What kind of system review you said?
A welfare system. The Australian welfare system, basically.
Yeah.
Well, probably with very specific research tasks. They were paid for 440,000 Australian dollars for it. Is it Australian dollars?
Yeah, Australian dollars, I think, yes.
But they used AI, like I guess everybody that is writing text, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And the problem there is that it's basically hallucinated a lot of facts and citations to those facts.
That's a biggie. That's a big no-no.
That's a biggie, yeah. And to me, the difficult thing here is the answer can be don't use AI, right? But is that a realistic one? Because shouldn't we not assume from the moment that you get a report that AI was used?
Well, I think you assume that. But my mom wouldn't assume that. Right? Government officials maybe won't assume that.
But sorry, go ahead.
I think it's maybe aside from that, what I would assume if I get a report, I would assume that there is definitely Gen AI in this. Mm-hmm. But I would also assume that you reviewed it, that the key points, I mean, maybe like an intro, maybe some stuff is fluffier than others, that's fine. But like the facts, these are things that you can...
Facts need to be correct.
Exactly, right? It's like, but it's a way like, okay, and I hate to anthropomorphize AI, but it's like if I delegate a task to someone, but I'm the owner of it, and I'm presenting at a client or something, or to a government, I cannot just say, sorry, that's not my fault because this guy actually wrote this. Right? You need to be able to back it up and to take ownership. And I think
I fully agree. Because otherwise, like if the facts are not correct, you can also, for this example, just bypass Deloitte and just put these research questions in a deep research task of OpenAI.
Exactly. There is I mean, even for like, I remember, and I need to remember this, but there was a university as well that some students were asking for a refund because the teacher was using AI, but the teacher was using AI to generate content, but he still prompted the AI to say, talk about this, this, and this. This should be the curriculum. He would still review the content, and I feel like maybe that's fine, huh? Like there was also a podcaster, I think from a Tech Meme Ride Home, I think, that he also did there was a tool, I think it was about, because he was also a historian, I want to say, or something like that.
Yeah, it's true. He also has a history podcast, yeah.
Yeah, and then he used one AI tool that would also do research and also output some stuff. And in the end, he argues a bit like it's still valuable. My contributions are still valuable because I still needed to say, this is accurate, this is not accurate, let's focus on this. So like, it's not like he didn't need to have the knowledge and just use the AI and you just were replaced. His knowledge was also very key in delivering a good output, right? But that doesn't mean that, like, AI generated doesn't mean that there's no human expertise in it, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's also a distinction there. And I think, I mean, there was a big boo-boo still, because he said the issue, the hallucination was the fake quotes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Fake quotes from a judge or something. So,
like a fake citation.
Fake citation, yeah.
You're CTO of a big consultancy firm.
Yes.
Do you have a guideline for these type of things? Like if you make a report for a client or something?
I know what I use, and I know what we tell the other people as well. Again, what I said is like, we're still responsible. I think that's something that I expect everyone to know. There's also the whole security part, right? Like, which I'm not going to get too much into, right?
Yeah.
Like, are the data being used to train new models and all these things? I do expect people to use AI, to be very clear. Like, I do think it can help. Like, I think you were faster at reviewing and iterating on things than writing things out. So I do think it's good, but I think, again, needs to be responsible in the security part. And I think everything needs to be reviewed and vetted, right? And everything, like, okay, what it's saying here, is this actually what you want to say? The focus of this document, is it focusing on the key parts that you think are important, right? If it's like I don't know, presentation or a document or statement of work, maybe 80% of this should be on the actual tasks and the estimations, right? Is this actually what we want? And I think, and also even cutting out AI can be very eager to generate text, right?
Yeah, that's true.
To say, okay, there's a lot of fluff here. We have a one page, but actually you could say this in one paragraph. Just let's rephrase that. And you can use AI for that as well, but you need to be able to read at the end and say, okay, I would be happy if I had written this and we're sending this. And if there are any questions, we can back this up.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the only, not even fear, but like one question I have is sometimes AI makes things so quick. And I think we as humans, we need more time to really absorb the thing. So sometimes I think we need to slow down a bit. It's like more efficiency is not always better, because if you generate a document, then you need to present, and then you're quizzed on this, you also need to understand this as well, right? So that's why also, like, if I was writing an article, I used AI, but I also noticed that sometimes I need to type things out, or I was also using speech to text. But sometimes for me to type this out is also a way for me to start thinking about it and getting into, or like, what do you want to, like, even though I'm typing these words, I'm thinking about what's the next part, what is the next paragraph.
Build a framework around what you're working on.
Right. So it's a bit like, yeah, and maybe related to coding, I think I have some of that as well, right? Like, as I'm doing something, I'm thinking a bit of how the other things work in the background. And with the AI, I feel like I can move faster, but then things are not thought through. What do you think, Bart? How would you tackle this if you were in my situation? Throwing the question back at you.
I think clear guidelines. Maybe also, so what I noticed is that, so I've noticed this same problem, what they have here exactly, myself as well. So I'm working with a friend on a let's call it a citizen data science paper for archive on, it's a bit technical, but on running economics. And in a article, you typically have like a part where there's like a short literature review. And I tried to, maybe I can let OpenAI do this literature review. And it looks very believable, but when you actually check in detail, like, there are citations to things that simply don't exist. But there are also like these things, and I could also like see a value in that. Like typically when you have a piece of text and you ask the AI to validate if all of these citations are correct and exist, which has become easier because like web usage tools and so have become way better over the last 6 months. These typically get picked out. So I could also, like, aside from that, you have very clear guidelines. I could see that you have, you can maybe build it in the agent workflow thing from OpenAI, but like that you have this agent where you drop in this document and that the agent basically verifies every link and piece of text to see like, does it actually exist? If there is a fact, like the citation to the fact, can we follow this link? Can you retrieve it? And that you basically have, like, you yourself as a person are responsible, but you can use that as a tool to do an extra validation.
Yeah, for sure. I think you can always add more tools to increase the confidence.
Yeah, that's maybe
And
the
also-
right wording. Increase confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I think you should. I think also depends on what kind of, like, there are big mistakes and there are smaller mistakes, let's say, as well. But I would still expect people I would still expect someone to take ownership still, even if you have
but
this
I
tooling
agree.
around
I
it,
fully agree
right?
with that.
So
And responsibility at the person that is responsible for delivering it.
Exactly. And I think the reason why I'm saying this now is because if someone is hearing this and they're like, oh yeah, no, but AI checked the references and it's fine, but actually it wasn't fine. If someone came to me and said this, I would still say, yeah, but it's still your job to.
Yeah, fully agree.
Yeah, again. All right. What's next? We have MacroStrategy Partnership claims the AI boom is a bubble, 17 times .com and 4 times subprime, using Wixell's framework for access credit. They point to soaring training costs, slowing adoption, and shaky returns for large models. Gut check or alarmism? What breaks first if cash tightens? Another warning that AI is a bubble, huh? I feel like
Another warning that AI is a bubble. Yeah.
Another warning.
I think it's an interesting article to read. Maybe we shouldn't go too much into this, but what they try to do is like basically try to have a metric of how much of GDP is incorrectly spent towards this bubble. And they say like this incorrect spending of GDP, when does it happen, is when you have a very long period where you have actually quote unquote too low interest rates. So you can borrow money very, very cheaply, which we've seen over the last years. And they say that like what is happening now, this incorrect spending of GDP is 17 times larger than the .com bubble. And it's 4 times larger than the subprime crisis that we had in, I want to say, 2008.
I think so, yeah.
And like aside from this article, I think we're hearing a lot. We also had Jeff Bezos recently speaking on this. And I think everybody's a bit nervous on what will this do, right?
What did Jeff Bezos say, by the way?
He's basically saying that it's a bubble, but like that is
so he agrees with the
exactly, yeah. But that it's still a very valuable technology. Like there was a .com bubble, but the internet has increased arguably everybody's wealth through a rising economy. And the challenge now, I think that's also what you see in a bubble. If you're not in a bubble, investors invest in good ideas. But if you're in a bubble, like you're very eager to put your money in this trend because this is the next big thing before you know it's a bubble. And the problem then becomes that your risk appetite becomes higher. You don't really see like, are these good ideas or not anymore? Because it's also like the technology is very out there, it's still very young. Often people that are investing in it that are not as close to the actual what can it actually do, but it is yet another thing that is branded as an AI tool. So maybe we should invest in it. And you see also, like well, we've discussed a lot of high valuations typically on very big companies, right? But you also see very small startups raising millions of dollars without having even a product market fit, right? That is
Yeah.
So yeah, it will be interesting to see what this gives.
Yeah. What you're saying is like it's a mixture between hype and FOMO that creates this bubble, right? Like people,
Yeah, exactly.
like
Yeah.
people, I mean, and you hear this a lot, huh? Like if you're not investing in AI, you're falling behind. I've said this, like not in investing, but like in using, right? AI tooling. I mean, sometimes you see even businesses, right? I imagine that some conversations behind closed doors is like, we need to do something with Gen AI. I don't care what it is. We just need to do something. Sometimes the market signals are good as well, but it's a bit founded, right? And I think what you're saying as well, I think the .com analogy is a really good one, because it's also something that we've also said here, that there's so much promise about Gen AI, like the next AGI and whatever, right? And it falls flat, or it falls short. But at the same time, if you really take a step back and really look at for what it is, it's still very revolutionary, right? It's still like, you're not going to go back to doing things the way they were before, but it's just like you promise so much that it's unattainable. It's like, you cannot get there, right?
Yeah, to me, and there probably is a bubble. The question is whether it will pop or not. But the thing here is like it will still be a technology that changes a lot of things in society, for the good or bad, right? Like how people work, especially the type of office worker,
Yeah,
or coder. Like this will be changing going forward, despite it being a bubble. We also see now, and what is also concerning is that you have these large players like OpenAI and NVIDIA basically investing in each other. That there is this discussion that OpenAI has setting up a lot of contracts that will cost them a lot of money going forward to build, for example, data centers, but that they do not have the resources to honor that commitment in the coming years, so they're forced to raise even more. There are a lot of these signs, both on the very big companies as well as the small startups that raise money without having serious customers, that make people feel nervous.
yeah. I also heard somewhere that OpenAI actually doesn't make a lot of money, because they have a lot of like free tier users and all these things, and right now they're just trying to increase the market share to then catch up with the profits later. That's what I heard.
Well, they're not cash flow positive. Well, they make a lot of money, but they
Yeah,
burn more
indeed.
money. Yeah,
Yeah,
they burn
that's
more
what I
money.
mean, right? Which I think it's also, I don't know. I wouldn't be comfortable if I was running a company like that, right? To say like, because a lot of stuff happens, and like with the
Yeah. And also they're like, so they need outside capital basically. And over the last years, it have always been investors. And in most recent time, they're also looking more and more towards debt, so lenders. Also, all small signals that maybe the capital has run out because it's becoming slightly risky. So now we need to look at banks, and then so it's all small signals that together make people nervous. I think what you saw after the .com bubble, like the actual internet companies, like they still did very well. Like for example, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, like Amazon still did very well. The companies that just adopted internet by having a website, they still did very well.
yeah.
But like just another idea that people threw some money at, like they went bankrupt because there was no
Indeed.
actual value in there. And that's I think what we will.
And I think what the article also saying, it's the amount of money that people are throwing in there. It's a different scale.
Yeah, it's a different scale.
Like it's a lot.
And there you could argue maybe it is more transformative, or it's more transformative, or it's the same amount of transformative than the internet bubble, or the coming of the internet, but at a much shorter time.
Yeah.
Because it's going
Well,
super rapidly, right?
yeah. It feels extremely quick.
Yeah.
Like everything.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting to see how this continues.
Exactly. What else?
we have a study that tests 8 table formats for large language models and finds that Markdown key value blocks lead at 60.77% accuracy. CSVs land at 44.3%, but uses far fewer tokens. With 1,000 questions asked over 1,000 synthetic records, cheap to parse isn't always correct. Format choice changes outcomes. So this is a study that tries to understand what table formats are easiest to understand by your LLM friends. Right, Smyrna?
Yes, exactly. I thought it was we don't have to spend too much time. I think it's also kind of straightforward, but I thought it was interesting because sometimes, like, if you have a little to-do app or like you have a little agent or something, like sometimes you have structured data, right? And what I've always done is to just copy paste it into, sometimes I ask from an CSV, or sometimes I have the markdown tables, right? But they actually spend some time to see what is the best format for these models to understand. And the first one was Markdown KV, which I wasn't 100% sure what it meant by because they also have Markdown table later. Markdown KV, and I'll share for people following the video. Markdown KV is basically like a Markdown text. So I have here. And then they just say record 1 as like a subtitle, and then they have like a block with key and then number, key and number. And then they say record 2, and then they like...
Does that render to a table? No, right?
That does. It's just like text file. It's almost like it's really just...
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just this. So there is a Markdown table, which this renders to a table.
What they're calling Markdown KV, I actually never heard of it. But it's something basically like JSON lines. So like in every line, well, here I have a row over multiple lines, but like you have a block of text per row, basically.
Exactly. It's really like you have a pound, right? And then there's the title, and then like double pound, that's the subtitle. And then you have like a block with literally like ID, :1, name, Charlie A0, age, la la la, and then pound record 2. Which again, I've never seen that, but apparently this is the best format, which is not, maybe it's not as surprising in the sense that Markdown, probably the models are optimized for Markdown, and this is the most Markdown report kind of thing. Markdown table is the one that I was thinking when I think of Markdown documents, which is basically like something that kind of looks like a table, right? And a lot of the times the Markdown parsers, they actually read like a nice table with this. And I guess what they're saying here, so there's some, they explain how the analysis and the confidence intervals and all these things. But actually Markdown KV is the best. So if you ask questions about your data and your data is in that format, Markdown KV is apparently the best for you. And then everything else, so by like a 4% margin, 5% margin, and then everything else kind of starts at 56 and then it drops down for XML, INI, YAML, HTML, JSON, Markdown, natural language, JSON-L, and CSV. I was also surprised that CSV is so low. I have done some things with CSV, like just dumping the CSV on ChatGPT and say, what is the aggregation? Stuff that you could do with SQL and DuckDB on a CSV, but you were just asking natural language, right? But actually it was pretty bad. So maybe the highlights here, just to bring it home, let's say. Format seems important. So even though it was the same data, the model they used was a 1 nano, I think. So it wasn't a super powerful model, but still.
For mini, I think even.
Mini, maybe, yeah, indeed. Let's see. It was a 4.1. Model 4.1 nano.
Oh, yeah.
So the format, just having a bit of a think of what's the format would make a difference. Where is it? CSV performed poorly. Markdown KV, again, which I have no idea. JSON-L was also pretty bad. So just having a bit of, I guess for me, the takeaway was having a bit of a think. They're not all the same. Maybe think a bit of this, think of that. Maybe depending on your application, if you need a high accuracy, because even Markdown KV, which was the best, was like 60%. Maybe you need to have something else, like an actual tool that can translate natural language to SQL queries for all these things.
Yeah. I'm also a little bit skeptical on these things because tool use has become so good these days. Like a decent LLM will probably just drop this in a Python code and execute that and then do a filter on that, right? like in a data table, some kind of format.
Yeah, indeed. After seeing this and the numbers, like 60% is not very high. Huh? So I actually agree with you. But at first, if I hadn't seen this, I would have thought that dumping all the data there would probably give you very good results, actually. But that's not the case. So, yeah.
Okay. Our last, because we're a little bit pressed for time, right? We'll do our last.
We have Snowflake introduces a managed model context protocol server so agents can query governed data without teams running their own infra. It supports OAuth and role-based access and can expose Cortex Analyst and Cortex Search and as tools. Net effect simpler, standardized data access for enterprise agents. So, what is this about, Bart?
Yeah, they released this on the 1st of October, a few days ago. And what they now basically have is that they have their own managed model context protocol server that gives access to a lot of different tools. So you can basically fetch data from your warehouse. You can also, through those tools, use Cortex, which is their AI analyst and basically exposes your Snowflake warehouse to whatever MCP client that you use. Like you could use it directly in, let's say, in Claude, or you can actually now in OpenAI Agent Builder fetch data from your warehouse, put stuff in your warehouse, etc. Yeah, it's good to see that. I think this is yet another signal that MCP is, at least for the foreseeable future, here to stay.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's really like, I think it's a logical step as well. I do think we'll have more of these MCP as a service kind of thing. I think it makes sense. Like it's another way to interact with your data, right? It's Snowflake managed, so I guess the security and all these things are there as well. And I think it opens up a lot of possibilities, right?
Yeah, interesting.
I wonder how the performance goes though. Like if you...
Yeah, true.
Because I'm thinking like even for like model deployment for feature stores, right? If you need to create inference real time, sometimes it takes time just to query the data and to return, right?
Yeah, like that inference time that you need to do tool usage, like it can also feel like it's a bit grating, right? Like it's too slow to respond,
Exactly.
And especially when it's not immediately the right answer.
Exactly.
It can take way longer than just having your trusted dashboard that you just like refresh on.
Indeed. I know that Snowflake, they also had a bit of a feature store story as well, which I guess would be more like a cache layer on top of the data. So kind of like a Redis thing, so you have really fast queries. But I don't know too much about it. But I also think that if you solve the inference time problem and you have these MCP servers, I think it's a very good story. Yeah? I feel like, again, like you said, AgentKit, now business people can create their drag and drop agents and connect with data from Snowflake. And it's like, poof, you have a lot of stuff there. So, of course, there are more questions like on the access controls and all these things, but it feels like a step in the right direction. And I expect more providers to also start rolling these things out. Cool. I think those are all the topics for today. We have more news to share, but I think maybe
You're making this like a big thing, but it's not a big thing. I actually switched from for one of my adventures.
Okay.
/ventures.
Yes.
From Gmail to Outlook.
You switched from Gmail to Outlook. So now your venture is Outlook based.
I have some insights that I did not think that I would have.
Okay. Anything you want to spoil?
I feel I've always been too opinionated on this. But let's discuss this next time, because you need to go to the...
I need to treat myself. Let's just say that.
Okay. Oh, wow. Sounds more, okay.
Yeah. But maybe you got me a bit curious, but then like, you think before you were too opinionated about email providers and now you feel like that those opinions were too strong?
I think so, yeah. Email providers / tool / solution providers. Maybe my Google versus Microsoft stance on this
has softened.
Tooling for startups. It's softened, but I have like pros and cons a bit based on the context.
Okay. And,
I used to be much more strong opinionated versus one direction.
And maybe why did you switch?
We're going to keep it for next time.
We'll keep it for next time. Cool. Bart, thanks a lot. Thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you.
I'll see everyone next week and potentially with a new studio.
Wow.
Kinda. Whoa. Well, maybe.
See you
Thanks
next
everyone.
week.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.